Okay, so the entire field of economics in under 5 minutes. Sounds kind of nuts, right? Well, maybe, but hey, we're going to give it a shot. And we're going to start with a mystery that you've probably wondered about yourself. Yeah, the $14 avocado toast. Seriously, why does some mashed up green fruit on a piece of bread cost so much? The answer, it turns out, is, well, it's pretty much all of economics. It's got everything from global shipping to the weird ways our brains work. So, you ready? Let's get into it. You know, it all boils down to one simple, maybe kind of depressing truth. You can't have everything. And that core problem has a name: scarcity. I mean, think about it. You want things, I want things, we all want a TV that's just a little bit bigger than our cousins, right? But the problem is, there's a limited amount of, well, everything. If we had infinite pizza, we wouldn't even need economics. But we don't. So we have to make choices. And here's the thing. Every single choice has a cost. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about what you gave up. Right now, you're choosing to watch this. That means you're not watching endless cat videos on the internet. That, my friend, is your opportunity cost. And hey, I really hope this is worth it for you. So, okay, we're all making choices. How do we get the stuff we need? Simple. We trade. And this brings us to a really cool idea called comparative advantage. Look, it basically means you don't have to be the best in the world at something to win. You just have to be less bad at it than something else. If you focus on what you're most efficient at, the thing with the lowest opportunity cost, and I do the same, and then we trade, we both end up with more stuff. It's kind of magic. All right, but you can't just have billions of people trading one-on-one. You need a system for all this to work. And that's where markets and money come in. And yep, we're getting back to that avocado toast. So what's a market? It's really just any place, physical or digital, where people buy and sell stuff. And it all runs on two super simple ideas: supply, which is how much of a thing there is, and demand, which is how much people want that thing. That sweet spot right where supply and demand meet, boom, that's your price. The crazy part? Nobody is in charge. There isn't some global minister of toast setting the price. It just happens. Economists love to call this the invisible hand. It's really just math and human desire, all working together behind the scenes. But let's be real, trying to trade your toast for a haircut would be a total pain. That's why we came up with money. Think of it like the grease that keeps the economic gears spinning. It's the whole reason you don't have to figure out how many goats your Wi-Fi password is worth. It just works. So let's go back to your $14 breakfast. That toast isn't just toast. It's the final stop on a huge journey. You've got land for growing the avocados and wheat. You've got labor, all the farmers, drivers, and chefs. And you've got capital, the tractors, the trucks, the fancy espresso machine in the corner. All of those things, economists call them the factors of production, have a cost. And every single one of those costs is baked right into that final price. Okay, so that's one piece of toast. But what if we zoom out, like way out? Can we track all the stuff an entire country makes? The answer is yes, and that's basically how we keep score in the world of economics. We do it with something called gross domestic product, or GDP. All it is the grand total value of every final good and service a country makes in a year. And that word final is super important. We count the price of the finished bread, not the flour and the bread, because otherwise you'd be counting the same stuff twice. And yep, of course, there's a formula. Now, don't freak out. I know it looks like scary algebra, but I promise it's actually pretty straightforward. Let's just walk through what these letters mean. Okay, real quick. C is for consumption. That's you, me, all of us buying things. I is investment, businesses buying new equipment. G is what the government spends. And that last bit, X minus M, is just exports minus imports. Add it all up, and you get one big number that tells you if the economy is getting bigger or smaller. And that number, it can mean the difference between it being easy or really hard for you to find a job. Okay, so GDP is about how much stuff we're making. But what about the money we use to buy it? Well, sometimes your dollar just doesn't go as far as it used to. That's inflation. The simplest way to think about it is too much money chasing the same amount of stuff. Prices have to go up. And when it gets really, really bad, you get what's called hyperinflation. Just look at this. In 2008, Zimbabwe printed a $100 trillion bill. $100 trillion, and it barely bought you a loaf of bread. That's what happens when people completely lose faith in their money. So you've got this giant, complicated economic machine chugging along, sometimes growing, sometimes shrinking, sometimes prices are going crazy.
It makes you wonder, is anyone actually driving this thing? Well, kind of. There are two main groups who are trying to pull the levers.
On one hand, you have the government. Their tool is fiscal policy. That's a fancy way of saying they can change taxes and spending. On the other hand, you have the central bank. In the US, that's the Federal Reserve. They use monetary policy, which is all about interest rates and the money supply. So if the economy's in a slump, the government might cut your taxes, so you spend more. At the same time, the central bank might lower interest rates to make it cheaper for you to borrow money for a car or a house. They're both trying to do the same thing, keep the engine from stalling or overheating.
Now, a big side effect of all that government spending is that they often spend more money than they bring in from taxes. That gap is called a deficit. And when you stack up those deficits year after year after year, you get the national debt. And that, of course, kicks off massive debates about what it all means for the future. All right, let's pull the camera back one last time. Because in today's world, no economy is an island. We're all part of one massive, tangled-up global market. And the people running it, well, their brains are a little weird. Just think about how connected everything is and how fragile it can be. Remember a few years ago when that one single container ship, the Ever Given, got stuck in the Suez Canal? That one accident jammed up something like 12% of all global trade. Just one boat. See, this whole field, all these beautiful charts and formulas, they're pretty much built on one giant assumption, that we humans are rational creatures making logical choices to make ourselves better off. But what if we're not? And that's where this fascinating field called behavioral economics comes in. It basically says, hey, our brains are weird and we're full of biases. For example, losing $20 hurts way more than the happiness you get from finding $20. Or how about sitting through a terrible movie just because you paid for it? That's the sunk cost fallacy. And we all remember this one, panic buying toilet paper just because everyone else was. These aren't just funny little habits. They fundamentally change how we deal with money. Which brings us all the way back to where we started, that $14 piece of toast. The entire system we've just talked about, from the price of your breakfast all the way up to the global financial markets, is built on an idea of how humans behave. So here's the final thought. If that idea is wrong, if we're not the rational creatures we thought we were, then who or what is really calling the shots?